So, okay. Good afternoon, Jackie Elton.
Good afternoon, Debbie. Deegan.
Interesting. Nearly every person I've chatted to on this DDPK thing, I've known them personally through my own work life. And you're probably one of the few that I really don't know at all. And I just want to thank you because I know you came to my TED Talk in Kingston upon Thames, and that's actually what our connection was. So thank you very much for going to the trouble of doing that. And
Well, I love the talk, so thank you. It was really inspiring.
thank you.
I've never heard of you before, and I was just taken aback by it. It was fantastic.
Thank you very much. I absolutely loved doing it. It is a bit slightly terrifying.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I was so terrified by it. But anyway, because I'm not normally afraid of anything. And as my mother had said to me many times, well, if you've met, Vladimir Putin, why are you worried about, meeting Ted? She thought Ted was a person, so she couldn't understand why I was so, but I think I was a little bit rattled because I was doing it with a whole bunch of English people. And I kind of thought, I was flying the flag for Ireland a bit, and I kind of thought, I can't let the Irish side down,
Well, you had a lot of support. I mean, there was a whole crowd of people who suddenly came in.
I know, it's hilarious, really.
They were all supporting you. So
it was brilliant.
great.
But anyway, thank you very much for coming. So tell me about you, Jackie. You have a very, I want to bring up a few things with you that I'm dying to know about. But I'll bring up your first thing, which I'm fascinated. Of course, the charity I'm dying to talk to you about, but I have to talk about the Christian dating. That's the first thing.
So about 20 years ago, sort of a lot of things happened to me 20 years ago, but I was kind of at a bit of a loose end in my life. So I thought I'd set up a dating site. This was when dating was, internet dating was a totally new thing. And it was generally, the only people who really set up dating sites in those days were sort of young men who were a bit horny and just wanted to put up pictures of women with not many clothes on. So there was a kind of need for a kind of serious dating sites for people who wanted to actually meet people that they might actually want to like possibly marry or even like have serious relationships with. And I, being somebody from a Christian background, I thought, well, maybe I'll start with a Christian dating site and then branch out into other things too. And the Christian connection really took off straight away. And we never really got away from it because it was something that people of a Christian background, in particular a place like the UK, where being a Christian is a real minority thing, as I kind of think it's probably in Ireland as well by now. People don't normally meet Christians sort of by just bumping into them. So it really became something that people actually really needed and wanted. And I think we never really set out to make loads and loads of money, but really to provide something that people actually needed and wanted. And we're still there.
What are the rules of the game, Jackie, now, if you don't mind me asking you? So Christians what? I mean, obviously, we all think of maybe goody two shoes, and have they got the rosary beads out doing a decade of the rosary before they actually shagged one another or whatever it is, or do you wait till you're married? Or so what were the rules of the game?
Well, most of our members are probably more in the sort of, they don't really do rosaries unless they're Catholic. So we have many Catholics though. Not sure about the rosaries, but I think it's really anybody who identifies as Christian.
Right.
And that probably means, certainly in a UK context, that church, they don't, it's not just that they're sort of cradle Catholics or cradle, Anglicans or whatever. They probably go to church, or they feel they should be going to church or would quite like to go to church.
So good living people. Well,
they don't necessarily have to be good. They just have to mean it, But they obviously have a particular view that they, as somebody who believes what they do, that they want to meet somebody who shares those beliefs and values.
Okay.
And obviously people can be like really, really serious about it, or they could be barely going to church, but there has to be something there. I mean, they couldn't just say, look, I don't believe any of it, but I just thought I'd like to meet some Christians, because I think that would cause a few problems.
Okay.
So there has to be some sort of core belief there, I think.
Okay, well that's a good thing. I mean, that can't be a bad thing, you know, I don't think. So it's the complete, I suppose, then it's the complete opposite to your Tinders, swipe left, swipe right, or your whatever they are now, Hinge and Bumble and all these ones, which really are like shagging sites, I think, in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I think Hinge is probably not, but I think, I mean, even on Tinder, people meet and get married. It varies. But yes, I think people who join Christian Connection, and Christian Connection does operate in Ireland, by the way. People do join it from Ireland and Northern Ireland, and it's not huge in Ireland, but we're there.
Okay.
And but yes, it's people who specifically say, no, I don't want to join Tinder, or I don't want to join Match. I want to join somewhere where I'm actually going to meet somebody who shares my faith.
Okay.
Anybody who like goes to church twice a day and that's the main thing in their life, to somebody for whom it's an important element, but it's not the whole of their life. So we don't go around judging people too much. You know, it's fairly real. You know.
Okay, very good. We had a very interesting thing during the week in Ireland. It lit up. There's a super duper television show just started called Normal People. You may have read the book. It was out, I think, about 2 years ago.
Yes.
And it's very, it's about young kids who meet in school, and there's very well done sex scenes in it. And it's a very real situation. They're in sixth year. She's kind of odd. He's kind of the local school stud in an Irish way. And so there's graphic enough sex scenes in it, but it was on Thursday night and beautifully filmed, beautifully produced, two beautiful actresses. She's English. Well, on Friday, we have a big chat show called the Joe Duffy Show in Ireland. Well, the Irish rang in. They were in flames, literally, because of the sex. I mean, they were calling it pornographic. It was shocking. These were school children. It was paedophilia. And really, everybody was, I don't mean laughing at them, but there was it was just that real old Irish Catholic, really holier than thou, unrealistic view, I suppose. But actually they did cover it. The couple covered it extremely responsibly, I thought, actually quite well, But it's sex and all that in Ireland, I suppose, it has traditionally always been such a taboo subject because of the Catholic Church. But
I mean, there's huge variations, on Christian Connection about what people think is acceptable. So, we used to have polls and we'd said, what do you think about sex before marriage? And, 70, at the time we used to ask these things, 70% would say absolutely not, and 30% would be, well, depends, and maybe, and yes. And so these things are we have huge controversies. And in fact, we have discussion boards, which cause us a lot of grief, really, but people love them, and people get they argue a lot about, obviously, the usual thing, LGBT issues. That's still very controversial. The worst thing is evolution. That still gets people going. So there are things that really get people going. But I would say most of our members just want to meet somebody, and they just want to get on with it. I did have an Irish lady who's just got engaged during the lockdown, actually. She lives in and she's just got engaged. But she and her intended are both what we call naturists, as well as being Christians. So they
what?
She's a naturist.
Oh, right. So they're what?
Not only shares her Christianity, but she also she and her fiance are both naturists. So
a naturist is
it makes all sorts, So
a naturist is somebody who what? Tell me by definition.
Well, some people call it nudist.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. I've seen them on the beach, all right.
Yes, so what I'm saying is, I would say that's pretty unique.
Yes.
But it's a broad. Let's just say there are some very, very committed, very serious people on the site, but we have a whole range.
Okay, well, the human race is a whole range.
Absolutely, yes. But she's a very committed, very wonderful, very committed person, and really, really loves people and great deal for them. So, I think there are some wonderful, wonderful people on the site.
Fair play to her. I have to say I'm a little bit jealous of your dating agency, because I always thought I'm involved, obviously, in the children's charity for 20 years, and I always found it a little bit uncomfortable when we got involved in any kind of dating things. We had to be so careful because of the, and in case anything would go wrong, and that would have an impact on our charity. But we did a dating night about 5 years ago, which we call #NeverAgain. We've renamed it #NeverAgain. But we got 12 gorgeous men between 30 and 70. And we put them on Facebook, and they were all happy to go on Facebook and put their biogs out there. And they were all really gorgeous, gorgeous men for millions of different reasons. And we asked women to write old-fashioned love letters.
Wow.
And pick the man they wanted, but they had to write it with a pen on paper and post it to our shop, which is called With Love. We decided to try and find love before Christmas, and there was no money in this. We weren't doing it as a fundraising opportunity. And so we didn't anticipate what was going to happen, because we put the men on television at the last minute, and they all went on in tuxedos, which instantly makes men look much sexier. And we got thousands of letters for these. And because the letters were so magnificent, we decided to meet every single woman, because we felt so bad that we didn't want to be flippant about it. And so we set up interviews in the Westbury Hotel in Dublin City from 8 o'clock in the morning every 15 minutes for days and days and days. And I hated some of it. We loved some of the bits of it. It's so interesting dating, matching people. I absolutely love matching people, but it's one of my hobbies still. I do it secretly kind of now anyway. But we did go to a wedding 18 months later with one of the couples. And now, so 12 couples ended up dating, and one of them got married. One of them is living together since. 2 of them are living together since, actually, and one of them got married. So we got 3 absolute, clicks.
Wow.
Well,
Good.
and I have to say, at the wedding, the bride read out the letter she wrote to us for him, which was hilarious, actually, why she wanted him. And the minute I met her and interviewed her, I instantly knew that she was the perfect match for him. So I'm a bit jealous. But the one thing that really bothered me, this is going to go on far too long, Jackie, we're talking far too long, but one thing that bothered me was when we were interviewing the men, all the men wanted, in general, the men wanted somebody hot, fit, non-smoking, gorgeous looking, basically. Whereas the women were looking for a totally different thing. They were looking for kind. The men wanted somebody much younger. The men specifically, some of them specifically said they didn't want women with children, with any kids, with any baggage. Whereas the women were much kinder about it. The women were looking for somebody kind. They didn't mind if he had children.
That is the huge problem. It's the fundamental mismatches that we have in society. And with Christians, that's quite a problem, because you get more women than men in the church. That's a big thing.
Yes.
Often there are more educated. In British society, I think there are 2 million more professional educated women than there are men. So that's just an imbalance in society in general.
Wow.
You have older men who'll want women who are 10, 20 years younger than them. So there's all sorts of fundamental imbalances in society.
Yes.
And then, as you say, the men are looking at the photographs and the, attractiveness.
Yes.
And the women are looking for somebody with depth and maturity and
yes, and that was that I found that very annoying, because sometimes
the men would deny this, of course, so we have to be careful what we say. But there are some big issues there, and sometimes you're presiding over something that can never be easily resolved, and you're just feeding into a kind of wider problem in society.
Yeah, like, when did it ever happen that a 45-year-old thinks that he could date a 25-year-old girl?
When 45-year-old, 78-year-old, who's never been married, who thinks that a 30-year-old is going to have children by him.
Yeah, but see, all she's looking for.
I'm not saying all men. There are some lovely. Can I just say there are some wonderful men on our side, and that's great.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, but people do have very high expectations sometimes. People need to understand just how challenging it is. that
We
you know
had,
people
I
have
say
to be realistic.
we did have gorgeous men. I totally loved doing the whole thing. I was in my element doing it, but we do call it hashtag never again because we really worried about the night,
Yeah.
and everything going perfectly because the charity was involved. You know, we were nervous. Anyway, we have to stop talking, but that is one of my favorite subjects. But I have to talk about your charity, which of course is what brought us together in the first place. So tell me about that, Jackie. It's fascinating, actually.
Well, I set up a charity about 20 years ago. When did you set up your charity?
1998.
Me too. It was 98, 99, just about the same time, which was, I remember the same time. So, you know how you have that kind of moment, although mine came a few years before. I was born with a cleft lip and palate myself.
Really?
So I was very lucky. My family, you know, we had been born in London, access to very good surgeons and stuff like that.
Yes.
But then a few years before 1998, I saw a television program about children in the developing world who did not have any kind of treatment or very bad treatment. And then somehow, several years later, I ended up starting a charity in Canada. Don't ask me why Canada, but it's a long story. Where we basically got involved in helping children all over the developed world to have the kind of comprehensive care, not just surgery, but surgery plus, you know, speech therapy, psychological help. So it's a sort of rounded kind of assistance.
And
In
am I right in thinking
India.
there's one called Smile? Is that right? Smile is another
Sorry?
one. You hear about
There
Smile.
are two charities, very, very large charities. One's called Operation Smile, one's called the
Yes.
Smile Train. But they've always focused fundamentally on surgery. And the
Yeah.
trouble is, it's like if you break your arm or your leg, you'll still need a lot of other things. You know, you can't just fix the bone and you're ready
Yeah.
to go. And, you know, when I was, you know, the surgery on its own is not enough. You need to build up the confidence, you need the dental work, you need the speech therapy.
Yeah.
So all those things together. So often, you know, people, a lot of charities, as I'm sure you know from your orphanage experience, these things are quite complex. You can't just say, well, let's give the orphanage a lick of paint and
I
all the
know.
kids are fine.
Yeah.
You're tackling so many different things. You're tackling attitudes. You're dealing with parents. You're dealing with the hospital cultures and how people come into a hospital. You can't just give the surgeon some money and say, well, do as many operations as you can. You need to tackle so many different things in society, the stigmas, you know, and how the children learn to accept themselves and how the children is accepted into school. So we very much work with the local providers, the people that you know, some of the local providers are very good, the surgeons, the nurses. So that's where we really started out.
Mm-hmm.
And so and we work in countries all over the world. And I think a lot of the larger charities are now starting to come around to that, but it's taken a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So we've really focused on that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Fantastic.
it's been great.
I have to wind us up. I could talk to you for hours now, I have to say, but I have to wind us up because I do post these and we can't post them if they're very long. But look, you're just fantastic. You're doing amazing work. And I obviously do very similar work from the charity point of view. I'm definitely envious of the dating agency. It's something I'd love to do. Not enough
Well,
good.
it's an interesting combination of activities, but
It
yes.
really is. But it makes life colourful, doesn't it really?
It's challenging. Yeah, it's fun.
Well, well done on your work, Jackie. You're brilliant, and thank you very much for coming to my TED Talk and my TEDx. Really, I'm delighted you did. It's lovely to
Well,
meet.
I did see some, you know, I mean, you know, the sort of things that you were doing. It certainly, there was some some similarities and a few, you know, for the things you said, and it certainly resonated.
Well, the business is probably quite similar. I mean, we work with children in Dublin as well. That obviously
I've
have.
never met Putin, so you know.
Yeah, we're all doing very similar things, I think, really, and actually we never even got to COVID, but you're feck it, we're all sick of talking about COVID at this stage. We're going to have to move on from it anyway.
Yeah.
It obviously has decimated us because our shops are closed, which are our main funding stream. Has it had just my last question, has it had an impact on you, on your life?
Well, yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, fortunately, I mean, the strange thing about if you run a dating site, I mean, obviously business has gone up, and just you know, when you're running something which is online and which is about relationships, people are really seeking connection during this time.
Yes.
And obviously you're dealing with people on their own a lot. And so we're trying to run lots of social events online. So I'm very busy with that.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, you know, we're in the really strange position of business going up quite a lot. And so it's, it's a bit like that, you know, in 9/11 times, we had a sort of, you know, it's one of those strange kind of businesses that is much needed at times like this. So we're really, really busy.
Well, that's
I
fantastic.
mean,
And people
you know,
do need connectivity. They do need to talk, you know, and maybe they'll get to know somebody on a deeper level rather than just a quick chat and meet, you know, because if you're going to talk to somebody for 4 or 5 weeks before you meet them, if you're locked down, well, you'll know the person much better by the time you meet them, you
yeah,
know?
so there's a lot of really, I mean, it's really challenging us to provide a service for people while they're locked down. And,
Yeah.
you know, we've been getting together with members about how to arrange meetings, and we've been doing online quizzes, online trips to art galleries. And yeah, it's really challenging times, but
Yeah.
it actually rather, I mean, from my perspective, it's been a really interesting challenge. And I hope that lots of good things are going to come from this. But
Yeah.
you know, the shops where I live, they're all starting to open. I mean, not obviously the ones that are allowed.
Yes.
You know, I mean, when I look at the devastation it's going to cause so many businesses, and then, you know, of course, some of us have you know, do actually, I hate to say benefit, because that's a
Yes.
horrible word
No,
in
no,
this
but I mean, look,
circumstance.
if there's a silver lining on the cloud, well, that's a fantastic thing. And if it brings good people together, that's
I
even
hope
better.
it will. I hope it will. Yes.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's gorgeous to talk to you, Jackie. And keep up
Great
the
to talk
good
to you
work.
too.
Keep up the good work.
Okay.
Lovely to talk to you. See you.
Thanks. All
Keep
right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.